Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the live stream of the Europe Direct Soapbox competition for 2021. This is the Donegal regional final, and our winners tonight will go forward to a national final, but more about that anon. I'm your host for the evening. My name is Donal Kavanagh. I'm a journalist and broadcaster with Highland Radio. And as a journalist and broadcaster, I must say I am really looking forward to hearing what our contributors have to say about the theme of this year's event. The theme is lies, damn lies, and statistics. Establishing the truth is impossible in today's world of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. That is the theme that's being explored by our 18 contributors tonight. And as I said, really looking forward to hearing what they have to say about it. So that's what's happening. Each of our speakers will speak to that theme. They'll either speak in favour of the motion or they'll speak against the motion. And I will introduce each of them in turn, and they will then make their submission. We do have a three-member judging panel, a panel of experts in every sense. We have Ciara Canaan, who's the manager of Europe Direct in Letterkenny. We have Michael Margie, who's the president of Letterkenny Chamber and the head of the business facility at Letterkenny Institute of Technology, soon to be the Atlantic Technological University. And we have Fiona Roulov, the senior assistant librarian at the Central Library in Letterkenny. And I'll introduce you individually to each of the judges in just a few moments. But before I do that, just a little bit of housekeeping, just to let you know where we are and what's happening. As I said, this is a live stream. The event is virtual because of current public health regulations. All the applicants have submitted their soapbox entries remotely. They are recorded. You will be hearing from two age categories. There are under 16 contributors, and there are contributors who are 17 and over. And there will be prizes issued in both age groups. Each participant will have up to 3 minutes to deliver their soapbox address, whether they're speaking for or against the motion. The judge will score each participant on the content and delivery. They'll score individually, but all the judges' scores will be added to give the final total marks. Now, obviously, neither the judges nor the organisers have a position on the motion. It isn't that we're judging people on whether what they say is something we agree with, or the judges agree with, or the organisers agree with. Whether they agree or disagree, it's the way they make their argument, it's the way they use their logic, and it's the way they speak to the theme is what they are being judged on. Now, as we're live streaming on social media, we do encourage you to support the applicants, leave positive comments and congratulations, and we really appreciate each of our participants putting themselves forward in this competition, and fair play to all of them. Now, as I said, we do have three judges on our judging panel, and I'd like to introduce you to each of them individually, and each will speak for a moment. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Ciara Canaan, who will explain the role of Europe Direct Letterkenny in this event.
Europe Direct is a one-stop shop for all things European. Our main activities are providing free information to the community of Letterkenny and the Northwest and Donegal. We provide information about citizen and consumer rights, latest news about EU affairs, and free information and publications. So the soapbox competition is one of the many things that we do all year. So I'd like to congratulate all of you who have entered the soapbox competition with great entries, and wish you all the best of luck.
Our next judge is Fiona Roulov, and she's going to outline to us why this event is so important.
I really think the soapbox competition is so important for many reasons. The main reason is it gives a chance of people to practice their public speaking skills. Some people like to do it, some people don't, but it really gives you confidence. It also helps in critical thinking, because the subjects that we use, the topics that we ask people to speak about, are ones that you can take either side. So it's great to listen to both sides. In the past, we have had topics like Brexit, Ireland's opportunity, charity begins at home, and also those ones, and they are really so there's such good subjects that you can just get on and talk about. So that's the main reason. Also, it gives an idea of what the barometer out there is of the feeling on these subjects. I mean, this year's subject on information and misinformation is so topical as well. And I really love it because we have the two different groups. So you can get the young people competing against each other. And we do have a place for older people as well. So plus 17. So it is just open for everybody. And I think when you can get a competition that is so easy to enter, because you either download and record, or whether in the days when it's in person, you come in and you do your speaking, it's free. And you have a great chance of winning great prizes. So again, they are just a quick snapshot of why I think that the European Soapbox is so important.
And finally, Michael Margie, who is going to speak to us about the importance of this year's topic.
I think when I look at the importance of the soapbox competition, it really stands out for me. I mean, to be able to have speaking skills, to be able to get your point across in general is a very important attribute to have for the rest of your life ahead of you, particularly for job interviews or for group meetings or for your general self-confidence that's out there in everyday life. It's for standing up for yourself and for others too. And even dealing with business and negotiating your way through that whole space, if you happen to have that entrepreneurial side to yourself. I think it's really, really important for the next generation to have competitions like this here, to give them a chance to trial and error and to build up their confidence. And when I look at these sorts of competitions, I really think they're brilliant. It's a great opportunity to look at your speaking style, to look at yourself on video, to build up that confidence. And when we look at the 21st century, being on video, being able to speak, get your visual cues right, have a kind of personality on screen too, is really, really important.
And now, my friends, we come to the real reason we're here. It's time to hear from our participants. We have 18 participants in total, and we will begin with Anya Edwards.
Hi, my name is Anya Edwards, and I support the motion that establishing the truth is impossible in today's society. As young people, we participate actively in an online world plagued with chaos, from Facebook conspiracies to conspiracies from the ex-president of the United States himself. It feels like we have seen it all. Finding accurate, truthful information for that class presentation is now associated with wading through tons of internet sources and trying to determine whether they are biased or not. Take an example I mentioned earlier. The last president of America, Donald Trump. This man's followers were like no other, constantly spouting rumors supported by Trump himself. In reference to the COVID-19 pandemic, Donald Trump had a bright idea regarding disinfectant. I see. It knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute, and there is a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning, he quoted. This question alone caused a ripple effect of Americans simply believing in Donald Trump's claims. And throughout the next few months, US medical providers were urging Americans not to take medical advice from Trump. Post-Trump's impromptu medical advice, a few arguably stupid Americans were admitted to hospitals across the US, having injected themselves with various cleaning chemicals. In a survey done by the CDC, 10% of people said they had used a cleaning or disinfecting spray on their bodies, and 6% of respondents reported inhaling vapors from household cleaners or disinfectants. The report also found that people who used one of the non-recommended methods also reported adverse health effects that they believed were caused by the action more frequently than those who used recommended methods. Now, in response to a huge backlash, Trump later claimed his comments were sarcastic. But should a world leader just take for granted the fact the country will be able to grasp his sarcasm? And was it worth the risk? Probably not. This is why the spread of misinformation is rife. All it takes is for someone in a position of authority to say something and we are forced to believe it, when it may just turn out to be a hoax. And as a student who values the truth, it's scary to think I could be constantly fed misinformation by those whom I trust to relay factual, detailed information. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. Our next participant is Brian Marshall.
Judges, I disagree with tonight's motion. I think that it is possible to establish the truth in today's world, but I would have two caveats with that. Firstly, and most importantly, that you do not get your news from social media. The American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene last year did a survey showing that 6,000 people died directly as a result of COVID misinformation and 40,000 were hospitalized. This was in places like Iran, South America and Africa, where people actually drank methanol and alcohol-based cleaning products thinking that they were a cure for COVID after hearing about it on social media. But it's not just far away places where social media spreads rumours and so-called facts. Irish social media had rumours like it was unsafe to breastfeed after getting a COVID jab, or that Lidl were going to demand COVID certs to enter into their stores, or that mRNA technology had never been tested in humans, ignoring all the clinical trials. If you want news, you need to go to an established news provider like BBC, RTE, or Reuters International, who fact check everything. The International Fact-Checking Network has been in existence since 2015, but Facebook and WhatsApp only signed up to it on March 2020, and TikTok and Twitter have not joined yet. The second caveat is to beware of deep fake. Channel 4 last year did an alternative Christmas message from this person, whom I'm sure you all recognise. Only halfway through the message, she got up and danced on the tables, and only when the message was finished was this actress revealed to be the deepfake. In conclusion, you need to be aware of deepfake. And don't get your news from social media, but from established fact-checking news organisations. Judges, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Our next contributor is Cueva Park.
Good afternoon, everybody. The theme today, lies. Damned lies and statistics. Establishing the truth is impossible in today's world of misinformation, disinformation and propaganda is unfortunately a very prominent part in our lives due to millions of people being able to voice their opinion through the internet and social media. There are so many directions in which this topic could go, but my questions for you today are, is all news lies? Is there ever going to be a source that is completely unprejudiced? Has the media been based on fact, view or opinion, dating back as far as 1609 when the first official newspaper was published? It is safe to say that people of Ireland have been very interested in the news since the coronavirus reached the country in February 2020. But there have been wide concerns about what is real and what is fake, especially in relation to the internet. According to the Irish Times, for Irish news consumers, COVID-19 took first place for false or misleading information, followed by politics, celebrities, and climate change or the environment. Now, for me, that is quite disturbing, as we all know, COVID-19 is a worldwide pandemic that has taken thousands of lives, closed down businesses, and prevented children from getting their education in a normal school environment. We should be able to read and watch content about the virus with the security of knowing that it is factual. Media platforms, in particular digital media platforms, should be obligated to fact-check content before allowing people to post so that we are not led by false information. According to the RSF, or Reporters Without Borders, Ireland ranks 12th in the World Press Freedom Index. They say this position is threatened by long-standing delays to defamation reform and highly concentrated media ownership. News and broadcasting is controlled by semi-state company RTE, which makes you think, who gives the go-ahead to publish these articles? Is it influenced by rich political figures? Are they biased towards Parliament and attempt to keep them in the best light possible? According to the Irish Times, Leo Varadkar, former Taoiseach of Ireland, has said, RT's tendency to favour Liberal and centre-left parties may be unintentional and may be innocent, but it is still there nonetheless. 3 minutes is nowhere near enough to chat about such a broad and important subject, but I will leave you with one last thought to ponder with. Seeing as I have used media to source some of my information for this speech today, is what I've said false or misleading? Thank you.
Thank you, Cueva. Our next participant is Chloe Donaghy.
I agree with the statement. Misinformation is false or inaccurate information, especially that which is deliberately intended to deceive. Disinformation is false information which is intended to mislead. Propaganda is information, especially of a biased or misleading nature. As you can see all around you in our world, it's very difficult to know who and what to trust, especially with social media and all these websites that can be sketchy, unreliable, untrustworthy source. In particular, websites like Wikipedia, where anyone can go on and change information. When you search for information on Google, Wikipedia is usually the first website to come up, meaning that people think they can trust it, which isn't always the case. Unfortunately, lots of people in our world, and even on social media, people try to create the perfect life. This makes it like our life is a terrible one, or we aren't making the most of it. But really, this is a form of propaganda. As I have already stated, propaganda is information that is biased or of misleading nature. We can see examples of this nearly everywhere in our daily lives, and most of the time we don't even notice it. Some examples can be a brand that promotes their product over another product, and political signs. Today I will be focusing on the impact of social media in relevance to propaganda. Propaganda has been around for centuries, and the internet is only the latest means of communication to be used to spread lies and misinformation. Some might even say that propaganda and social media sites like Facebook influenced big political events, including the 2016 US election, so much so that people have tried to investigate what really happened. Cambridge Atlantica is a company that offers services to businesses and political parties who want to change audience behaviour. It has been reported that they and Alexander Krogan, who is a former physician tech researcher, have harvested the data from Facebook users and his app, This Is Your Digital Life. And that 50 million Facebook users were targeted with digital political advertising. This simply means that these users would have seen a lot of different Facebook posts showing how great Trump was. This is a form of propaganda that dates back centuries and used by Stalin in the Cold War in the USSR. Most would say that Stalin was a bad leader for his use of propaganda, and I would say the same for Trump after learning this information. A statement by Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg called it a breach of trust between Facebook and the people who share their data with us and expect us to protect it. But can we really trust social media sites like Facebook after this? Also, Cambridge Atlantica was reported using the same use of propaganda in several different countries, including the UK during the Brexit vote. This shows us how difficult it is to establish the truth today due to all the misinformation, disinformation and propaganda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Our next contribution is from Declan Rowe.
Hello, my name is Declan Rowe and I'll be talking in the competition for 17s and over in that category. And I agree with the statement that the truth is hard to find during all this disinformation and propaganda around the world. And my example would be during the football community, with the likes of massive transfers as recently, such as Cristiano Ronaldo joining Manchester United, was massive, and it was a very strong built-up rumour, but luckily it had some evidence behind it. But if it never happened, there would have been huge uproar and a lot of distress in the society. And so when it comes to my example, it would be over the player Ronaldinho back in 2011. Ronaldinho was and still is a very well renowned player. He won 2 FIFA World Player of the Year awards, and he also won a Ballon d'Or. And so at the time, he played for the likes of football giants such as Barcelona and AC Milan. And so it was a big shock when there was rumoured that he would be joining Blackburn Rovers for 20 million over the span of 3 years, as it was rumoured or teased even by the owners, the Vinkies, who were multi-millionaires. And so a lot of fans, and mostly assuming businesses, were huge in this update, and so of news, and so they could quite possibly spend a lot of money with merchandise and with jerseys, which would, if it never happened, as it never did, unsurprisingly, would cost thousands. But luckily, if it never got that out of hand. But this is just an example on how dangerous it could be, because it could cost a lot of businesses, like say small businesses who aren't partnered with the club or doing it on their own accord, trying to cash in on the hype. So it could kind of cause a lot of stress and unnecessary amount of money being spilled in, and it can also ruin the reputation of the club due to the distrust that will be garnered due to the fact that the fans won't understand what's happening with their club, and disappointment that they've been led on. So it just goes to show how the truth is a very valuable subject, not even in football but just in the world in general. But my example is just based in football, and it just goes to show that it can go up into the millions worth of money and just loyalty in general. And that's why I agree, that's only my example, why I agree that why truth is very hard to find during this day and age, especially with social media. But yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Declan. Our next contributor is Ellie Doran.
Good afternoon. My name is Ellie, and today I am going to talk about the misinformation, disinformation and propaganda in our world today. Joseph Goebbels was the father of propaganda. He was a Nazi minister under Adolf Hitler. Joseph Goebbels used propaganda to convince the people of Germany to support the Nazi regime. Back then, the only way to spread lies and misinformation was by using words and talking. But in this day and age, we have a far more dangerous way of using it. We have social media. In the media, we have 3 mainstream apps that allows people to share content and gain followers. Those 3 apps are called Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. On these apps, they allow you to build a platform and to follow people that you like and look up to. But the problem with giving someone such a huge platform is the bigger they get, the bigger the chance of them using you for their own advantage. The more followers someone gets, the more power they have over you. And with that power, they can choose to lead you or mislead you. But how are we supposed to know the difference? This can affect you in ways without you even knowing. Just last week, my mum was scrolling on Facebook and saw an advertisement for this brand new toothpaste that was meant to cure a toothache within 24 hours. My mum is prone to getting sore teeth and having a toothache, so of course, without even thinking, she went to the shop and bought it for €30. She used the toothpaste that night, and 24 hours later, she still had the toothache. So instead of wasting her money and buying this toothpaste for €30, she could have used that money to do errands throughout the week. She could have got her hair done, her nails done, or even just saved herself the trouble and gone to the dentist. Now this goes to show how propaganda can affect us in the smallest ways. My mum didn't know any different. She just thought that if the toothpaste was being legitimately advertised by someone she follows, then of course it had to work, but obviously that was not the case. During this year and last, the world has witnessed propaganda firsthand due to the misinformation and conspiracies around COVID. COVID vaccines are in Ireland and available now, but the lead up to getting the vaccine was not so easy. In early 2020, scientists started to search for a vaccine, and a lot of people had mixed feelings and opinions on whether it would be a success or not. COVID-19 brought the world closer together but also pulled it apart. Articles and conspiracies came every day, each one different, letting people decide which one to believe. This made people believe in different pieces of misinformation and then lead them to spread it and support it on social media. Some would say the vaccine is a hoax. Some would say the vaccine isn't safe. Some would even say the vaccine is a weapon created to be used against us. I'm 15 years old. How am I supposed to know the difference? These conspiracies did not just come from saying it out loud. It came from the media. This shows me that if more than half of the assumptions and rumours spread on social media are fake, how is anyone supposed to find out the truth? We cannot just blame one person for believing in fake news, for we're all guilty of it. Some believe it, some spread it or support it without even knowing. As A.H. Auden once said, propaganda is a monologue that is not looking for an answer but an echo. In our generation today, the echo supporting fake news is on social media, on the apps like Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, where misinformation is spread all day, every day, and is promoted by people who have huge platforms and people who we look up to. So in reality, how are we not supposed to believe it too? In conclusion, we live in a world with misinformation, disinformation and propaganda, but it is up to each and every one of us to distinguish between the truth and the lies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Our next submission is from Hannah Marie Eccles Breslin.
In today's modern world, it's very hard to distinguish between what is true and what is false. Promoting a false sense of security, misleading information about treatments or remedies, or promoting suspicion of the official governmental guidelines and sources. These all can be found on the internet or social networks that can change a person's view on certain aspects of the world. COVID-19 completely changed the way we do things, and we are guaranteed to see it on the news every day. With this popularity comes a lot of suspicions and theories about where it came from and what we are being told if it is true. One of the most recent fake news I recall hearing is that we don't actually know what's in the COVID-19 vaccines. These types of fake news that get spread affect people, such as myself, as once the thought is in your head, any concern you have about the topic can be blindsided and blamed on these conspiracies. Vaccines brought a rise of concern as to what we are putting in our bodies. Fake news was spread, like giving it to young females may affect their fertility. This would affect me, as being a young female myself. It's a big risk to take if you think it could affect your future in any way. Fake news like this is so dangerous to people who already have concerns and suspicions and can be easily led by non-factual information. I do not believe in this claim, as it has been proven by statistics that it is false, after detailed reports and factual numbers from the young females who were vaccinated. If I were to believe it, it could not just affect me, but my family and the people around me. Although I have stated previously that I did not believe this news, when I first heard of it, it raised a concern in me that I did not have prior. I could have been easily led by this claim and had not taken the vaccine. But I had waited and seen that the statistics of young females and their fertility levels had not altered. Even though I've had the vaccine, this fake news made me wait a while and affected how I thought about the topic for the first couple of months. This shows how the fake news I had read nearly led me to go against what I originally thought was true and the power it had over my own opinion. Fake news can be so easily spread with technology and is far more common and believable than any other century. Technology keeps updating and it will get easier and easier to make or believe fake news. The popular quote, "Don't always believe what you hear," couldn't be more accurate, and always checking your information will never fail you.
Thank you, Hannah. Our next contributor is Jude McGrawson.
Good afternoon. My name is Jude McGrawson, and today I'm here to talk to you about these lies, damn lies and statistics, and the role of disinformation and misinformation in today's world. Propaganda works best when those who are being manipulated believe that they are acting upon their own free will. Joseph Goebbels, the father of propaganda, said it best himself. As long as the people believe that they are right and that they came up with the idea themselves, there's no stopping the domino effect of misinformation and the rise of these lies, damn lies and statistics that have severe consequences that can sometimes even result in death. For example, in 2016, the presidential elections were taking place in the United States. The online world was a frenzy of misinformation at this time. Smear campaign after smear campaign from both sides popped up every day. One of the most serious lies that was reported on the internet was the Pizzagate scandal that involved Hillary Clinton being part of a sex trafficking ring. The online rumours said that this was taking place in a pizzeria known as Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria in Washington, D.C. The rumour had been uncovered by a supposed coded email that linked high-ranking Democratic officials to the ring. Now, this misinformation is bad enough, but its consequences are much worse. When Edgar Madison Welsh walked in to the pizzeria with an AR-15 and fired 3 shots. He was soon apprehended by law enforcement, but the sad thing is, in Welsh's view, he was the hero saving these children from the ring. This is just one example of how misinformation can spiral on the internet and have devastating consequences. COVID-19 has fueled the campaign of misinformation on the internet and has seen a rise in inflammatory content that we see every day. I'm sure we all know and are tired of hearing about COVID-19, as we're all sick of it at this stage, and up until now everything looked very bleak. But the world of science came together, created vaccines, tested these vaccines, and are now administering them to the public, which is great news and has saved many lives. But due to the spreading of false information coming from anti-vaxxers who have no medical experience but have unlimited access to the internet, where they can express their views, I'm sure I don't need to explain why this is bad news. But because of the selfish actions of the people that are able to get the vaccine, not getting them, people are dying from a disease that we have treatment for. All because of the information on the internet from people who think they are experts. Who are you going to listen to? Dave the plumber or the expert epidemiologist? I know who I'd rather listen to, but the problem is that more and more people are being encouraged to listen to Dave's expert views. Misinformation about COVID is being spread at an alarming rate. Last month alone, the HSE reported 800 posts about vaccine misinformation to social media networks. Anti-vaxxer groups are spreading misinformation and lies on social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The platforms give voices to people who have no actual evidence to support their claims, but seem to accomplish what they are trying to get by simply shouting louder so that their voice is heard and people listen to them. Goebbels realised that controlling the narrative allowed him to control events. We all know what this led to, and now we are making the same mistakes by allowing fake news to direct the direction of world events. Russians' influence on elections, celebrities dealing with vicious rumours and personal attacks. Another problem with misinformation online now is not even the cameras tell the truth anymore. With the rise of technology like deepfake and editing software, if you're skilled enough, you can make anything say what you want, which people have already done to world leaders like Obama, the Queen, and Putin. This is a very scary thought when it comes to diplomatic point of view. It would be very easy for war to break out over fake information like these lies, damn lies, and statistics. I'd like to thank you for listening to what I had to say today about this topic, and I hope it has given you some food for thought.
Thank you, Jude. Our next contributor is Kieran.
Hello, my name is Kieran Kelly, and I will be competing in the 16 and under category for the Europe Direct 2021 Soapbox competition, and I will be arguing in favour. I'll be arguing in favour of the motion establishing the truth is impossible in today's world of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. In this video, I will be explaining about fake news. I will explain what is fake news, why it is so dangerous, and what you can do to help combat fake news. So what is fake news? Fake news is a general term that refers to any outlets or social media accounts that seem real but are fake, they use they lie and use false information for their own gain. These can include false stories from COVID-19 to climate change to government corruption and much more, and they are crafted to convince people or to get traffic or to get likes and shares online. Fake news can appear online, on news stations, in radio or TV, or social media like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and all, etc. Why is fake news so dangerous? Fake news or false, misleading information can make it hard to find the truth. The line between what is true and what is false is kind of blurred. This means people cannot find the truth from the lies. This means that they can be misinformed in matters that affect their daily lives. And yes, I will admit that some fake news is just harmless banter, and it's easy to spot. But some fake news is very damaging, and some fake news are damaging and they can affect your lifestyle. Some examples of fake news are COVID-19, and some theories with COVID-19 are that it was made by China in a lab, or maybe Bill Gates so he can put microchips in the vaccines. And these come from misinformation and fake news. How can you stop fake news? Well, to stop fake news, you can go online and use reputable sources. In Ireland, you can use RTE, The Independent, the Irish Times, etc. And if you think that it is wrong, just be cautious. On your social media, be cautious of what you read.
Thank you, Kieran. Our next submission is from Leah Rose Davis.
Hello, my name is Leah Rose Davis from Scolwara, Buncrana, and I will be entering the 16 and under category. I will be agreeing with the topic, lies, damned lies and statistics. Establishing the truth is impossible in today's world of misinformation, disinformation and propaganda. Lies, damned lies and statistics. The origin of this quote is still not fully known, but it is believed that Mark Twain popularised it and attributed it to British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli. Others say Disraeli never said it, so the irony is, even the origin of this phrase is controversial, making you wonder what source you can believe. This phrase suggests that statistics can be used to mislead people even worse than any lie. So this brings us back to the topic today. Establishing the truth is impossible in today's world of misinformation, disinformation and propaganda. To demonstrate this, I am going to use the COVID-19 vaccine as my example. While reading and researching the vaccine with a very open mind and an unbiased point of view, I got very conflicting reports about whether or not it is actually effective or whether it is simply a hoax. On the HSE website, I got the statistic that states that 7 days after your second vaccination, you should be 95% protected against COVID. Yet the New York Times stated that COVID may be spread by vaccinated people as easily as unvaccinated people. Both sides equally quoted statistics to support their arguments, but they both quoted conflicting statistics, so what can we believe? When the COVID vaccine was first introduced, Niv told us that if Ireland got to 90% vaccination rate, we would be able to move on from COVID. Yet we are now at 90% vaccination rate, yet the numbers are higher than ever before. So, yet again, more conflicting reports. Anti-vaccinators are coming out and saying that vaccinations are simply a money racket for large pharmaceutical companies who are undoubtedly making billions from these vaccines. They also claim that vaccinations are a form of discrimination. For example, a restaurant would not turn away a certain of colour, yet they are allowed to discriminate against somebody who is unvaccinated. Therefore, I have to ask, how can we possibly establish the truth in today's world of misinformation, disinformation and propaganda? According to the Oxford Dictionary, propaganda means information of a biased or misleading nature used to promote a political cause or point of view. Immunologist Luke O'Neill said that the COVID vaccine was 100% effective in preventing hospitalisations. And Nevitt have said that people who were vaccinated were unlikely to be hospitalised and even less likely to end up in ICU. However, the Irish Times said that on the week they checked, 54% of hospitalised patients had been fully vaccinated and 25% of patients in ICU had been fully vaccinated. Does this not demonstrate the potential propaganda we are being subjected to? Ladies and gentlemen, members of the public are being misinformed and disinformed. How can we possibly establish the truth when we are being given two sets of conflicting opinions and reports? Therefore, I agree with the motion today. Lies, damned lies and statistics. Establishing the truth is impossible in today's world of misinformation, disinformation and propaganda. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah Rose. Our next contributor is Leah Nee.
Hello, my name is Leah Nee, and I agree with the idea that in today's world of misinformation and propaganda, it is impossible to get the truth. I agree with this because the spreading of false propaganda and lies has happened several times in recent years. An example of this is the war for Iraq. One of the motivations President Bush and his administration put forward for the war in Iraq was Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction program, despite the fact that Hussein did not have an active WMD program. The argument that the American government and its sympathizers give for their defense is that in the shadow of the 9/11 attacks, the government misread the evidence and tragically started a war because of it. The problem with this defense is that there is no evidence of it other than Bush's words, and given the fact that on the eve of the war in Iraq, the US government was engaged in a campaign of propaganda and deception, there is no reason to believe Bush or his administration. Another example of misinformation and false propaganda being spread instead of the truth is Donald Trump. One of his many cases of spreading misinformation is suggesting to inject disinfectant to combat COVID-19. If people had followed his advice and did inject disinfectant into themselves, they would have surely ended up in a worse situation than they started in. If someone had decided to inject bleach into themselves, it would have broken down their blood cells, which could have resulted in blood clots, liver injuries, kidney failure, or even death through the burning and tearing of the stomach and esophagus. A final example would be the COVID-19 vaccine itself, or rather the lies spread about it. Many rumours were spread that the former Nobel Peace Prize winner Luc Montagnier stated that all people who took the COVID vaccines would die in 3 years, with these claims being unfounded in science and an over-exaggeration of what Montagnier even said. He said that the effects of the vaccines would be known in 2 to 3 years, not that people would die from them. In conclusion, propaganda and misinformation is worryingly common in recent years, so common in fact that the truth is confused for lies, and with this comes a disastrous misunderstanding that leaves us with terrible consequences. If we do not change this soon, lies and truth will be no difference between them. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you, Liam. Our next submission is from Mia McGettigan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mia McGettigan, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about how hard it is to find the truth in an era of misinformation, lies and propaganda. In Oxford Dictionary, propaganda is described as ideas or statements that may be exaggerated or false. We can see usage of this from World War I and Nazi Germany right up to today's world of social networking. One of the earliest uses of propaganda was during World War I. Posters were created which were often used to persuade men to join friends and family in the fight, which was the army. They were also created to urge women to help in the war effort. Examples of these posters include the I Want You US Army recruitment poster and the Are You In This British Army poster, which show different sectors of society contributing to the war effort. Imagine that you were a young man or woman in this time. How would you feel if propaganda was being used against you to influence your thoughts and manipulate your opinion? Another example of early propaganda is Nazi propaganda. This was used to control which information reached the public and to influence popular opinion. Joseph Goebbels played a huge role in this. This is because he was the propaganda minister for Hitler. Goebbels masterminded the propaganda machine. As he was in complete control of the radio, the cinema, and the press, he had lots of power and could easily manipulate the public's thoughts. Goebbels organised the production of cheap radios called the People's Radio. As he was in control of the radio, he made sure that the People's Radio broadcasted Hitler's speeches into every home to spread the idea of Nazism. This brings me on to my third point, social media. As we know, with power comes responsibility, and this is something which celebrities and influencers should keep in mind when advertising products. They use false advertisement to try to convince us that this new magic face cream would take away all our spots and our wrinkles, or that this expensive shampoo would make your hair grow twice its length. How are we supposed to know what is real and what is fake? These celebrities are abusing the power that they hold over us as we continue to trust them and give money to them. To add to my point is the misinformation of COVID-19 vaccinations which were being shared on social media. Instead of believing what the WHO or the experts were saying, people started believing anything anyone was posting on social media. People started to share posts, which were saying that one vaccine would give you a microchip, and another one was a biological weapon. How am I, as a 15-year-old, supposed to find out what to believe? In conclusion, I think that we need to ask ourselves why we believe and why we use propaganda. Often, we are not lying to anyone but ourselves. It is so hard to establish the truth in today's world of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. Therefore, it is very important for us how to learn to distinguish the truth and lies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Our next contributor is Niv Toy.
Hello everyone, my name is Niv Toy and today I will be speaking about lies, damned lies and statistics and establishing the truth in today's world of misinformation, disinformation and propaganda. The dictionary describes lying as making an intentionally false statement and propaganda as information especially of a biased or misleading nature used to promote a political cause or point of view. We tell ourselves that it's okay if we just tell this one lie, but we have gotten so used to telling ourselves this that we do it without even thinking, like eating. We didn't have to think about it, we just do it. During World War II, Joseph Goebbels was made Minister for National Enlightenment and Propaganda in Germany. He and Tim alone had sole control of all media outlets at this time. Goebbels allowed for the production of a cheap radio station called People's Radio so that Hitler's speeches could reach every home, business and organisation. This gave him the power to infiltrate every aspect of German life. These are clear examples of Hitler's propaganda. He used this to brainwash people, to make people believe that the Jewish population were to blame for everything, and it was successful. During COVID-19, when vaccines were released, there was different information about all of them. Conspiracy theories were at their peak. Don't get this one, do get that one. How are we supposed to know which one to get, or if we are supposed to get any at all? We hear and repeat that we should get news from a reliable source, but nowadays it is so difficult to identify which sources are reliable and which are biased. Do we really expect to go on living like this, where we don't know who to trust or if we are being told the truth? In my opinion, social media influencers use misinformation and disinformation the most in today's world. Influencers tell us that if we spend money on this brand of skincare products, then all of our worries will go away, when in reality, we know that they won't. We as a society are willing to believe this. We are naive and think maybe this one will actually work, even though deep down we know it will just be as useless as the last one. In my life, I think the biggest lie is that I often fall into the way of thinking that tomorrow will be a better day to start chasing my dreams, when in reality I just couldn't be bothered to start today. I told myself for such a long time during the COVID-19 lockdowns that I will start training and improving my fitness tomorrow, and today will be my last day of sitting around doing nothing. So why do we tell lies? I think we tell lies because we don't want to accept the truth, or we don't like the truth, so we change it. People are going to believe the things that they want to believe, and a full truth can never be established, because every time someone tells a story, it gets changed. It's up to us what we believe. It's up to us what story we tell, and it's up to us the change we make. We all have two stories, the truth and what we want to be the truth.
Thank you, Niv. Our next submission is from Ashan Foy.
I'd like to begin by saying that I completely agree with the statement that establishing truth is impossible in today's world of misinformation, disinformation and propaganda. In this current time, it is often extremely challenging to find some reliable information that doesn't have an agenda or is fake news. False information is news, stories or hoaxes created to deliberately misinform or deceive readers. These stories are usually published to influence the views of others, cause confusion, or even to push a political agenda. In the modern world, social media plays a huge part of our lives. However, it can be used by some to take advantage of us. There are many big influencers who have millions of followers. What they post is not always true. Influencers, like most people, are influenced by money. They are made offers for huge amounts of money in return for advertising products. These products are often dangerous and untested, but there's so much false information spread around that people don't know what's true and what isn't true. These influencers convince you to buy things that they don't know if are safe, but all they care about is the money they've been promised. Today there are even many corrupt politicians throughout the world. Many politicians have their own agenda. People tend to believe what these high-ranking officials say because people think they can't possibly be lying. But in today's day and age, this unfortunately isn't true. There are lies and deception everywhere, especially in the past couple of years with COVID-19. It is becoming increasingly difficult to know what to believe, with many politicians throughout the world even downplaying this global pandemic, saying it's a hoax. A famous example of a high-ranking person that often spread fake news is Donald Trump. Donald Trump had his Twitter account banned because of the false information he circulated. People should be able to trust others, especially a former president of America, but that is no longer possible. Moving away from fake news from a particular person, I'd like to say that it is not possible to just trust a group or an organisation. Back to what I mentioned earlier, money. Money can influence everyone, including the media. When we listen to or read the news, we expect to find true, factual information, but again, what we get is biased and false information. Media companies often tell the people what they think the people want to hear. An example of this is found in News Report, the media in America after school shooting in America. The media reported that in the home of the shooter, many violent video games are found, and this is thought to be the cause for the shooting. However, after authorities investigated, they found there were no violent video games in the home. The media too told people what they think they wanted to hear and what they thought would get them the most money. To conclude, I would like to mention that there is truth out there, but it can sometimes be difficult to find in between the lies and deception that fill our world.
Thank you, Ashan. Our next contributor is Rory Knee.
Hello, my name is Rory Knee, and today we are talking about whether or not the truth is possible to receive in today's world with misinformation or disinformation and propaganda. My opinion is you can get the truth, but with great difficulty. I say this because most newspapers have billionaire owners or are part of a political party and are biased. When a news source is biased, it may overlook certain pieces of information or even create fake news. Fake news is a weapon that most politicians in particular, and of course news sources, use regularly. For example, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is an example of a politician who uses fake news effectively. Donald Trump is another politician who uses fake news very effectively. The problem with politicians and news agents using fake news is that many people of the public believe them, e.g. Donald Trump. Donald Trump has made various claims to the American public and the world through many different means. He often uses Twitter as one of his examples. For example, Mr. Trump claimed on Twitter autism rate, quote unquote, autism rates through the roof. Why doesn't the Obama administration do something about doctor-inflicted autism? This started off as a tweet in October of 2012, but went on as a continuous theme through the last 9 years in political debates, talk shows and more. This theme was blaming autism on child vaccinations when in reality it actually has nothing to do with the vaccination children are given as babies. This led to many people, mainly Trump supporters, to not get vaccinations for their children. This puts them at risk of certain diseases, e.g. measles. Also, most recently and possibly most notably in the last presidential election, when Joe Biden won, Donald Trump claimed that he would have won but did not because of the quote unquote millions of illegal votes. This was also fake news. But in this world of lying politicians and news broadcasts all over the world, there is still hope left. And this hope is left with honest individuals. Honest individuals like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who are both the President and Vice President of America respectively. So I answer your question, do I think establishing the truth is impossible in today's world? And I say no, I don't, but it takes more effort than it should. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Rory. Our next submission is from Serena Baron.
Hi, my name is Serena, and today I'll be talking about how much misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda is evident in our society today. I'll also be talking about what impact it has in our everyday lives. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it's very difficult to distinguish between what's false and what's the truth. There are many examples that have led us to this point, which I'll talk about now. When people spread false information, they don't think about the effects it'll have on anyone else but themselves. And at the end of the day, we only really care about our own benefits and our own outcomes. A major element of propaganda that is evident in our society today is social media. Nearly everything always leads back to social media. Social media is such a great thing, but yet such an awful thing. There's so much false information spread online that I wouldn't be able to tell you all about it today, so I'm going to focus on one main thing. Many influencers put out products like makeup or their merch, not caring about the quality of it, as they know people will buy it anyway. They do this as it's a lot cheaper for them than using good quality products. As influencers, they're earning a lot of money, and the least they could do is purchase well-designed products. Young fans and supporters have spent their savings on their products only to be disappointed when receiving these products of awful quality. An example of this is when Olivia Rodrigo's merch for her new album, Sir, came out. Fans were very heated and angered by the quality of them and how they were different to what was advertised. Many fans took to social media to complain about this and said how things weren't spelled right and how all the sizes were wrong. Though it was claimed that Olivia had nothing to do with it and it was her team, which may or may not be true, she shouldn't have thrown the blame on anyone else. It clearly displays how unprofessional her team is and placed a black mark on her and her team. People will think twice before ordering anything from their website again. That's all I'm going to be talking about for today. Thank you for listening to my speech on how establishing the truth is impossible in today's world of propaganda, misinformation and disinformation.
Thank you, Serena. Our next submission is by Danny Rolston.
Establishing the truth is impossible in today's world, but it always was. Humans have always lied for many reasons. It's just we have different tools to do it. Lies are more accessible because of social media and as a result are mass-produced to cater to the demand. Everyone wants to be the first one to know, and this desire is preyed upon by others. In my opinion, the main reason lies are conceived is for comfort. Some would rather tell a white lie than a harsh truth. At the beginning of the COVID pandemic, a lot of false information was spread regarding the virus, such as alcohol kills COVID-19. But it was fabricated. Why would someone lie about that? For clicks? Maybe. But I think there's a deeper reason. We were scared, and as a result, desperate for answers, because humanity's greatest fear is the unknown. We would rather have a horrific answer than no answer at all. That's why people lie on social media, and it's why these lies are spread. Religion is founded to answer the mysteries encountered by humanity. Why are we here? How is the universe created? And what happens after we die? Even things as simple as thunder were lied about to explain what we couldn't understand. Lies surround us. They make us who we are. We've been lying so long it's become an addiction. There's no way we could stop. History is written by the victor, is it not? Create a story to suit our ideals. Create a story to hide the truth. Create a story where none exists because it's better than no story. We even lie to ourselves. We change memories to suit our perspective. We bury dark thoughts so we don't have to confront them. We lie so often that only you just barely knows the real you. You see, this isn't a modern problem. It's always been there. It's just evolved to become more efficient and dangerous. It was always impossible to establish the truth, and it always will be.
And our final contribution is from Tara Toy.
Hi, my name is Tara Toy, and today I'll be discussing the lies in our world. Before we try to understand the lies, misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda, we first have to consider why they're able to thrive in our environment. Why do we lie? I think we lie to avoid situations that we don't want to face, because the reality of life is too harsh for us to bear. We have become accustomed to our world disappointing us, and so we justify our actions to make us feel better. Social media is often blamed for the spreading of disinformation. And it's true, it can make or break you. It holds so much power, especially over my generation. But it saved me, and often that is the side of things that people neglect to mention. When I was at my lowest, influencers on platforms such as TikTok and Instagram taught me how to come back and fight harder than ever. We are told by schools and older generations that social media is ruining our society, and this is a form of propaganda and misinformation. Of course, it can have a negative effect on your mental health, but for 81% of our teenagers, it keeps us connected to the outside world and to ourselves. Society's view of perfection is near impossible for one to achieve. You have to be confident and adventurous while also being modest and realistic. We are expected to always fit into a category, and when someone cannot do that, we react by outcasting them. We fear change and we fear the unknown. Marilyn Monroe was considered one of the most beautiful women of her time. She was society's idea of perfection. However, if she was alive today, she would be larger than the average model. Society standards are constantly changing and we foolishly are always chasing them. But what we have to realise is that we are the society. These standards still exist because we allow them to, because we are scared to stand out and go against the crowd. Our minds are programmed to use history and past experiences to determine the future. In a recent study, only 38% of people said they are willing to try things outside their comfort zone. And making change is a very difficult thing to do, because in order to realise the change is needed, we first have to admit that we are not perfect. My life motto is something that encourages me every day to reach farther. If your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. Your dreams are meant to terrify you. They should scare you and make you reevaluate your whole life and question everything you have taken for granted. But often when you are scared to jump in, that is when you need to do it the most. And so I think the lies and propaganda that is stopping us from growing and changing is that we are told we are perfect the way we are. Yes, we should be accepted by everyone, but we aren't perfect because perfect doesn't exist. It is okay to be comfortable with where you are in life and to stop and to see what path you want to take, but you cannot stay there for too long and let life pass you. You have to realise your potential. Do not let the lie of perfection alter your life goals. Any change, even the ones for the better, are always met with discomfort. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara, and thank you to all our contributors. Congratulations to all of you, and well done for all the work that you've obviously put in to your submissions. Some real food for thought. And as I said earlier, as a journalist and broadcaster, I've been listening very intently, and I'll be bearing a lot of what you're saying in mind as I approach the way I do my job. And hopefully I and others in my profession will be able to offer answers to some of the points that you've been making over the next while. It's now time to hand you over to Michael Margie from our judging panel, who is going to announce the winners of the two sections, 16 and under and 17 and over. and Michael will also explain what the next steps will be for our two winners.
Okay, folks, we get to the most important part now, which is to announce the winners of the Soapbox competition. And I'll just pause for a moment. But the first winner out for 16 and under is Leanne Rose Davis Gulwara in Buncrana, and she agreed with the motion. And what an excellent presentation that she gave in terms of her video skills, her clarity of argument, her well-won and thought-out argument that she had put together. It was really obvious how much dedication was put into making this argument to agree with the motion, but also her presence on the video, her eye contact and her elocution as she moved through all the various stages that she was trying to explain. A rising star and a bright star for the future. Really well done, Leanne. The next person is the winner of the 17 and over category, and that person is Brian Marshall. He disagreed with the motion. So it shows you it doesn't matter what side of the motion you're on. It's about your skills of getting your point across, your skills of convincing an audience that, let me think twice about this here, somebody's saying something very interesting. This is another really good example of public speaking skills, of being able to catch attention and to be able to slowly move through the different stages of the arguments that they were putting forward. So to both our winners here, we're wishing you really well for the future. The next gen is looking very bright. And what I would say to you is to keep shining bright as you represent Letterkenny in the national finals that are coming up soon. Best of luck to everyone and keep shining bright. Well done.
Well, congratulations to Leah Rose and Brian, and I am delighted to tell you that you both have won an iPad courtesy of the Europe Direct Centre, and those iPads will be making their way to you post-haste. I want to wish Leah Rose and Brian all the best in the national finals. They'll be taking place in the coming weeks, and we look forward to seeing how they get on when they take the other winners from around the country. I want to thank everyone who was involved in our night tonight. I want to say a thank you to the judges, a very special thank you to all our 18 entrants, to the schools that supported their students, to the parents and to you, the viewing audience, and a special thank you for your contributions on social media and for your encouragement and congratulations that have been coming in for our participants. We want to acknowledge the role of Donegal County Council in supporting the work of the Europe Direct Centre. For myself, Donal Kavanagh, and all involved in the organisation of this very special competition, have a very good night.